Sure. Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to Ozark City Hall. We're glad you're here for the Board of Aldermen meeting and engaging with your elected officials. Listening to perspectives of city residents, business owners, and other community members helps our elected leaders make more informed decisions. Before the meeting begins, let's review our rules of order. These ensure the meeting is orderly and efficient while allowing everyone who would like to speak an opportunity to do so. There are two opportunities for you to speak: during the agenda's scheduled visitor and guest portion of the meeting and during public discussion of new bills and resolutions. During the agenda's scheduled visitor and guest portion, anyone who signed up at the city clerk's office before 5 p.m. the Wednesday before the meeting can speak to aldermen about the topic they specified. Now, in the public discussion of new bills and resolutions, that allows you to give comments for aldermen to consider before they make a decision. Anytime anyone is speaking, the following rules apply. First, only one person should speak at a time. Please be respectful of the person speaking and hold your comments until it's your turn. Second, anyone speaking must do so from the podium and speak into the microphone. Third, you must first provide your name and address in writing to the city clerk before beginning your comments. These forms are provided near the entrance. You also must state your name and address to the Board of Aldermen using the podium microphone. Fourth, all comments should be addressed to the mayor and aldermen. Finally, all speakers have 5 minutes. A digital timer will show you the countdown. The light will change from green to flashing yellow when 2 minutes are left. It will stay yellow at the 1 minute mark. Your comment time is up when the light turns red. The mayor or alderman may have additional questions for speakers after this time limit. Occasionally, the board will invite someone to make a presentation at the meeting. This is only to give information to the board about a specific topic. These presenters will have no time limit on giving their information. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded with video and audio unless there are technical difficulties. The use of cell phones or other devices is discouraged during the meeting. Please silence your phones right now. Again, thank you for being here and engaging with the City of Ozark. The meeting will begin shortly.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Aiken.
Here.
Alderman Campbell.
Here.
Alderman Galloway.
Here.
Alderman Hutchinson.
Here.
Alderman Metcalf.
Here.
Alderman Snyder.
Here.
We have 6 aldermen present. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. First order is looking at the minutes from the March 3rd regular meeting. Are there any questions regarding these minutes? Okay. Not seeing any. Is there a motion that we approve them as printed?
So moved. Second.
Okay. The motion is that we approve the March 3rd, 2025 regular meeting minutes as printed. That motion was made by Alderman Galloway. It was seconded by Alderman Campbell. All in favor of voting on the motion to approve the March 3rd, 2025 regular meeting minutes, do so by show of hands. And that does carry. Okay. There's no ceremonial matters tonight, but we do have 2 scheduled guests. We'll begin first with the Ozark Chamber of Commerce, the CEO and President, Chris Russell, to the platform.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, good. All right. Okay, well, guess what? At the end of this month, April the 1st, will be 1 year anniversary of me being a part of the Ozark Chamber of Commerce. And I just want to say thank you for all your support and the community support. It's been a fun year and we got lots more to go and lots of things to do in the future. And it was a fast first year. All right, so first of all, first thing tonight, real quick, I know you got a full agenda. Don't forget, next week is the Chamber Luncheon. If you are on the ballot, you should have received an email from me today about the opportunity to speak at the Chamber Luncheon coming up next month. You'll have 90 seconds to kind of give your reasons why you would love to be elected by the Ozark citizens. Now, we will keep a very strict timeline on that, so please come prepared for that. All the alderman candidates and the mayor candidates are welcome to speak. We're going to split it up a little bit, so it's not like this montage of conversations about why you are awesome and all that stuff. So we'll kind of split that up throughout the entire meeting to kind of break it up a little bit. And it'll be a random choice, so we won't have a set order. It'll just be drawn out of a hat. We'll bring you up. We'll have some fun with it, and hopefully you can state your reasons for running in the upcoming luncheon. Again, that's next week on Thursday from 11 to 1. You will need to buy a ticket. I put all the links in your email today. Let's see, what else? Okay, got a big ribbon cutting coming up. You know, we're starting to do a lot more ribbon cuttings here at the chamber, and a lot of them are small stuff, big stuff. This one's kind of important because Mr. Dent just recently opened up their $4 million building that they chose to be in Ozark. And we're also going to be doing a joint ribbon cutting with Nixa and with Springfield Chambers are going to be coming down for this one. And we would encourage everybody to attend. I think it shows well when we have somebody that invests that much infrastructure, that much capital. And this is a mom and pop business. It's a family owned business. They have 3 locations. They could have chosen anywhere and they chose to be in Ozark. And so we want to help celebrate that. Again, that's coming up March 25th at 11:30 a.m. I know you know where it's at. South on Highway 65. And of course, you're always welcome to come to any ribbon cuttings that we have. It's always good to see members of our city there that are in support of these businesses who are opening or celebrating some sort of milestone. Showcase Ozark is right around the corner as well. That's April the 19th. It's our Business Community Expo. The city will have 3 booths this year as well. Plus, we're going to partner up with OTO on part of it. Jeremy's asked for that so that you guys can showcase the Chadwick trails and the flyer trails. So you'll have one for the city, the police, city, public works, kind of a combination there. Maria's working on that. But again, we'd love to have you show up for that. That's going to be April the 19th. We'll also have a job fair. And we've teamed up with the Christian County Master Gardeners. We're going to have their indoor plant sales. So they won't have all their full plants ready because it's a little early in the season, but they're going to be a part of it, as well as the University of Missouri Extension, trying to draw more additional people into the event. So should be a lot of fun. So let's see. Other than that, you know, we're about through the first quarter of the new year, and the chamber's doing very, very well. Memberships is continuing to climb. We added about 10 or 12 in the last 30 days of new members, and it's just fun to be at the Ozark Chamber right now. So any questions for me? All right. Well, we appreciate you guys, and email me back and let me know that you're going to be able to make that meeting so we can put you on the calendar, okay? Or the agenda. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so very much. Next, we have with us a scheduled hit, Buddy Huggins, talking about signage near the schools. This is his topic.
I brought something to show and tell.
Okay.
Y'all recognize this? You ever seen it? This is one of them things that hangs on the wall over there by the pedestrian passageway by the tennis courts. This is the 4th one that's been ripped down. And it could have been prevented. So when they do put them back, they need to put them back with a cage on it so the little bad kids can't tear them down again. But Jeremy's going to get this. All right, I noticed that we got America's Disabilities Act. So I want y'all to realize that I'm a person with learning disabilities. I'm profoundly dyslexic, dysgraphia. And it's not easy for me to read y'all's, let me see how you do it. It's not easy for me to read y'all's website. There's some things on there that has to do with public safety and what we're going to talk about. But if we can get all that right, I'll explain to the person that's over the ADA for website compliance, and then we'll get it right. Because there's one that's missing. It's called the Comprehensive Annual Report Form. And I think by April, it's supposed to be due. The one that I got was from 2022. So we need a new one. And it has to be where I can read it like a PDF, and it's a readable one. And then I can put it on AI, and I can look at it and ask AI to tell me how much money y'all got.
Okay.
And we'll find out what we come up with.
Because your time, I mean, I thought you were going to talk about signage on the schools.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
This leads right into that subject.
Okay.
But see, it's about money too, and where money goes and comes from. They're doing that up in Washington, D.C., and they're finding out that these things are kind of hidden in the paperwork sometimes. But yeah, it's real easy to run these things through AI. But yeah, they where we got these 2 school districts, we got no signage, and we're wrapping up a lot of speeding tickets. And I think that if we put some signs and maybe some like we got over there by the library, one that has blinking and it talks about pedestrian. Well, the one where it says pedestrian, if we can get one of them over there, that'll be good. Y'all remember when we had the one that comes on a cart? It comes on a cart, y'all park it, and what happened to that one? We need that back so people can realize that it's a speed trap. And that way they'll teach themselves to slow down. So if we can get that fixed, that'd be great. Now, I'm not supposed to go off target, but I got one more thing. Graffiti-free paint. It looks really good. Have y'all been walking the trails and looking at the pedestrian passageways? Yeah. We want to keep it that way. I hear that there's a rumor that artwork's going to go up. And I'm going to be one of the first that screams real loud and says, no, it needs to stay clean. Even if you get a person that is going to do it, like they did the Flywood track, what do you call it, train over there by the senior citizens. That was an artist. He did a wonderful job. But that's not designed to go up under a pedestrian walkway. We need to keep them clean. Being from Houston, Texas, and New Orleans, I seen when graffiti came in. So I've been trying to say that graffiti free. Ozark, graffiti free. Thank y'all.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much for your time. Okay, we're now going to move into our first reading of bills. Our first bill we're going to be looking at is bill number 3645.
Yes, Your Honor. I move that we place bill number 3645 on its first reading by title only.
Okay, second by.
Second.
Okay, we are placing bill number 3645 on its first reading by title only. That motion was made by Alderman Metcalf. Is seconded by Alderman Aiken. All in favor on the motion to discuss bill 3645, do so by a show of hands. That does carry.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, amending the zoning code and official map by changing the zoning classification of certain real property located at 809 North 9th Street.
Okay, I think we're at this point recognize the Community Development Director, Randall Whitman, for this bill.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. I was kind of waiting for my cue. I don't know when to pop up here. I'll get used to this.
Okay.
So this is a request to rezone 9.5 acres of property located at 809 North State Highway NN from R1C single family to C2 general commercial. The property is located east of the main Ozark High School, junior high school campus. It's just north of the senior center and across NN from Finley Farms. The property is currently undeveloped. It's mostly wooded. It has one existing residence. And as I said, the property is zoned single family, and it is located within the city limits of Ozark. So this request was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their February 24th meeting, and they did recommend your approval. So my presentation is formatted a little bit different, but these are the same 5 factors outlined in the city's zoning code, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and you all would consider when making a recommendation or approving a rezone request. So how are the properties in the area currently zoned? How are the properties used? What guidance is offered from the comprehensive plan? What development trends in the general area, if any, should be considered? And how would this impact, or how would this rezoning impact the surrounding property, the area, neighbors, roadways, et cetera? And lastly, since the applicant has requested to rezone this to C2, we want to look at how the proposed C2 zoning and the permitted uses in the C2 district, would they be appropriate for this area? So the surrounding zoning and use of the property to the north, it's also zoned general commercial C2. It's undeveloped. I think you all rezoned this last fall in November. The property to the east across the highway is zoned for a planned development. It's currently undeveloped. The PD was drafted to allow for a development of vacation and short-term rental, event rentals as part of the Finley Farms campus, kind of in connection with their chapel venue. The property to the south again, is owned by the Finley Farms, and they use it as a storage, maintenance facility, offices, and it's kind of a staging area for their operation across the highway. To the west, the property, as I said, is home to the Ozark School campus, and it's zoned single-family residential. Mainly it's baseball fields, soccer fields, and football fields that adjoin this property. And then lastly, the property to the northeast underneath the legend, this is a 24-acre site that's not in the city limits, but it's zoned agricultural, residential in the city. So rezoning this property to C2 would be consistent with the properties to the north and south. So the comprehensive plans provide guidance on land use decisions in a number of ways, not just future zoning. I think we want to emphasize that. It makes recommendations and provides guidance on how to forecast the highest and best use, but it also recognizes and makes recommendations about strategies to mitigate friction when we have different or dissimilar uses and dissimilar zonings. And zoning always converges somewhere, and we have to mitigate that and deal with that in one way or another. And we do that through obviously assigning the most appropriate zoning districts. We also use that through using setbacks, applying buffer yards, screening, and generally good site design. So in this case, the property was actively used for residential up until about a year ago. The property is forecasted to be single family as well, and that's probably a reflection of how it was used when they developed the comprehensive plan in 2018. The house hasn't been occupied, I think, in over a year. We can confirm that. General commercial is a more appropriate development type. Staff's in agreement with that. And the zoning for this location probably isn't appropriate for single family development. Given its proximity to the highway and the adjoining planned development activity across the highway, and as I said, the properties north and south. The design elements included in the city's zoning requirements for C2 will help to mitigate any friction, if any, that comes from the type of development that's actually proposed or what project is brought forward. And they'll do that through setbacks, through the use of landscaping, and good site design. As you can see from this image, the property has some tight grade issues and might pose a slight challenge for development, but it can be, this is the Ozarks. Ozark has a lot of relief. This isn't uncommon for property around here, and it can be easily dealt with. It's probably more appropriate for commercial development than it would be for residential. There is water and sewer infrastructure available to the site. Can be easily served for most urban intensities. And the property is located on State Highway NN, which is classified as a primary arterial. And this is a roadway appropriately classified in the comprehensive plan for commercial traffic, not residential. So again, that's what the plan recommends. There is no immediate residential neighborhoods adjacent to this site. Aside from the school, which the school is more akin to a commercial use than it is a residential use, we don't see any significant, if any, friction that we need to mitigate. If this property were to be rezoned and developed for a commercial use, they still would have to provide the same buffer yards they would if it were a single family neighborhood when you have commercial and residential that adjoin each other. With that, I'll share that all the required postings, publications, everything has been met. Both the city staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this rezoning request, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Alderman Aiken.
So with regard to this land, am I correct that we're supposed to be looking not just to the comprehensive plan now, but also this would be encompassed by the Onward Ozark corridor study as well? And if so, how does the proposal fit with the designation in that plan?
I'll answer it this way. It's a good question. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered the Onward Ozark plan. I think they probably also considered the 2018 comprehensive plan, and they based their recommendations on both of those. In fact, the 2018 comprehensive plan recommended single family. The Onward Ozark plan recommended mixed use. The applicant has applied to have it zone C2. So really their request doesn't align specifically with either one. Now, C2 is more akin to mixed use than it is single family, obviously. Commercial is part of any mixed use development, and it blends well with that. So your recommendation really should be based on what staff and what the Planning and Zoning Commission has forwarded to you. So that's my way of getting around that tough question about how we manage the Onward Ozark plan. But,
Well, not necessarily intended to be a tough question. It's just the first time this has come up.
Sure.
Of rezoning on a corridor. I know we just dealt with that.
Okay. Yes, Alderman Snyder.
Well, just to touch base with Alderman Aiken right there, because I believe we tabled that particular issue until it could be looked at in depth. So how can we use a recommendation from the Onward Ozarks corridor study in reference to our rezoning request?
I think the best answer is you're not just making we're not just considering that. You're considering the 2018 comprehensive plan. You're considering all 5 of those factors. The comprehensive plan is just one of them. You use guidance from, again, what's the most appropriate thing for that area? What's the infrastructure like? Will it support that use? Will it support the uses within a commercial district? There's all types of things we have to evaluate when you're looking at changing the zoning or a development, a subdivision, and it's not just one specific piece of it, meaning that forecasted land use. So I would say you would consider everything, not just that plan.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay, Alderman Galloway.
I would just ask the city attorney to address the impact of the corridor study and how it's interpreted and whether it stands as a guideline presently.
The corridor plan Onward Ozark does stand as a guiding tool for the city of Ozark because it has been adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission, which has the legal authority to adopt that type of planning tool. How it is utilized, to the second part of your question, with the existing comprehensive plan, the comprehensive plan is older and the corridor study is newer. And the corridor study also goes into more detail on specific corridors in the city. And so we would look to that as a more updated, robust look at the uses that you would like to see in those areas as a guiding tool. Again, neither the corridor study or the comprehensive plan are intended to be steadfast documents that have to be utilized exactly as they're drafted. They're breathing, living documents, and they're a guiding tool. They're one of many factors, as Director Whitman explained, that are taken into consideration.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions for Director Randall? Thank you, sir. Okay, so this is the first reading. I'm going to open this up to the public. Is anyone here who would speak for Bill number 3645? This is your time to speak, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Alderman. Chris Ball Architects, Springfield, Missouri, 650 North Boonville. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I represent the clients that own the property currently. My client and his brother have inherited the property. The former resident now resides with them in the Columbia, Missouri area. My client's the Franklin County Sheriff up there. I think they're just looking for a way to find the highest and best use for the property. I think they're open to the possibility of being involved in the commercial development of the property and or selling the commercial property. But they asked us to look into the highest and best use, and that's where we came up with the C2 usage. Happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Anyone? Yes, Alderman Galloway.
No immediate plans to develop it is what you're saying?
Correct. No immediate plans, and it is not doesn't have any active contracts or anything on the property.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Do I just leave this here?
Oh, you can give to, yes. Anyone else here who wants to speak for Bill number 3645? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone here who would speak against Bill 3645.
I got a question.
State your name, please,
Buddy Huggins,
okay, and your address.
1201 West Farmer Street.
Okay.
It's up on a hill, and I was looking at the gradient of it. Has anybody checked to see if there's a big old rock underneath there, like a mountain?
That would be a question for the developer, which you may not know.
Well, that's going to change the plan. So I just thought I'd throw that little monkey in the ranch right there, because we're getting good at finding hills that are full of rock.
Well,
And
hey,
some of them don't need to be disturbed.
We're
They need
Missouri.
to be naturally like they are,
Okay.
left alone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone here who would like to speak against this bill? Okay, I'm not seeing amendments, so I'm going to, at this time, close to the public, bill number 3645. Any final comments from the board? I'm not seeing any. At this time, bill 3645 will be held at a future meeting. We'll now draw attention to bill number 3646.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3646 on its first reading by title only.
Do we have a second?
Second that.
Okay. The motion is we place bill number 3646 on its first reading by title only. That motion was made by Alderman Galloway, second by Alderman Metcalf. All in favor of voting on the motion to discuss bill 3646, do so by show of hands. And that does carry.
An ordinance approving a development agreement between the City of Ozark, Missouri and Missouri Commercial Development LLC relating to the development of the Ozark Marketplace project. I'll be happy to introduce this, and if we have more specific questions, the city's outside counsel is also present if those come up. Just as a reminder, the city has 3 items tonight on the agenda, 2 that follow this bill that get into more detail as it relates to this development and the economic development incentives. So this bill specifically just relates to a developer agreement between the city and the developer. This agreement involves a parcel of property northeast of the intersection of US Highway 65 and South Street. That is the Ozark Marketplace subdivision. And the developer has requested that the city authorize the approval of the final plat and to issue building permits on any lots inside the subdivision ahead of the normal process where the public improvements would already be constructed. This would require an intergovernmental or an agreement between the developer and the city, which is before you tonight. As a means of security, the city desires to condition the approval of the Ozark Marketplace subdivision, issuance of the final plat and the building permits on an irrevocable letter of credit, which would offer security for the completion of the public improvements. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you have specific questions that are in more detail than what I can answer, I would defer to our outside counsel.
Okay. Alderman Galloway, you're first.
Sorry, that was left
Oh.
over.
Oh, okay. Yeah, any questions from the board? Okay, I am not seeing any, so since it's the first reading, I'm going to now, at this time, open this to the public. Is there anyone here who would speak for bill number 3646? This is your time. Okay. Yes.
Good evening. Brett Roball, 4640 Stonebrook Court, Springfield, Missouri. I'm part of the developer group. I think this is the 3rd time I've been in front of y'all on this project. This is a culmination of about 18 months worth of work to get here. So I appreciate everybody's indulgence and patience. This will be part of a bigger presentation on the next bill, but just to explain this one and to give a little preview of part of the presentation next. This development agreement stemmed from a panicked phone call that we received from Aldi. We're under contract with Aldi to be in this development. And they had a pre-app meeting with the city, and it was at the time they understood what the normal City of Ozark process was, that the final plat gets approved after the public infrastructure work is complete. We have approximately 6 months of construction for public infrastructure work. So if we believe that we're on pace to get our permits here within approximately 30 days. And so if we start in April or say even May 1st, something like that, that puts us at the end of October. This is an approved 2025 project for Aldi. And we call this panicked because if they couldn't get their building permits until October or November of 2025, there's no way they could get this store open in 2025, which is part of their approval process, which means that we would be starting from scratch. And there's a question as to whether they would get it approved as a 2026 project. We called the city staff, and working with the legal counsel staff, and everybody involved, we came up with this process to allow us to file the final plat early, which would allow Aldi and others to pull their building permits early to work on construction concurrently with the public improvements. So we've agreed with them, city staff, city council, on the form of the development agreement where we would put up sufficient security in the form of a letter of credit plus a guarantee for that in order to guarantee that we get the work done. This will also be a public works project that will be subject to payment performance bonds as part of that type of work. So that's really the reason behind this, and we would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions at this time? Because he will be back. Yes, Alderman Snyder.
Just curious, so pushing this through is because Aldi says they may not be able to open in 2025. Do I understand that correct?
Yeah, it stemmed from a conversation with Aldi that this was approved 2025 opening for them. And so we went to work to basically see what can we do to get them open in 2025.
So they're telling you they're not going to build in 2026 if they can't do 2025.
They're telling us that this has been approved as a 2025 project. And if it can't be a 2025 project, then they start from scratch in terms of their approval process. And so we don't know.
Has the question been asked if they could be a 2026 project if issues come up?
They were really pushing us to push this to a 2025 project. And so I don't think they do. They didn't give us any guidance about what their real estate committee would or wouldn't do. They were just very anxious about opening in 2025.
So if I read you correctly, Aldi is dictating what we need to do in Ozark.
This is a request for your approval, and that's the best that I can say. I mean, they're not dictating anything. It's a request and a way to get this open in 2025, which is their approved project.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Galloway.
Actually, it's a question directed to our city attorney, and I understand there'll be a broader presentation, but the issue on this particular bill is to set up guarantees that there'll be money available for infrastructure to be built. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. It allows for the public improvements to be constructed concurrent with individual lots being developed. So the end user can develop buildings on those sites. Typically, our process requires the public improvements to be installed, and then final plat occurs, and then individual sites can be constructed. This just allows for a concurrent process, and in consideration of that, staff has requested that the developer put security forward to guarantee the building of the improvements, so that way the city is protected should something happen.
So, and just to clarify further, under our process, if it's done when the plat is presented, the infrastructure is already built, but that would be in October, which might threaten a key portion of the development or at least have some risk. So then the workaround was to make sure that if we didn't follow that process, that we would have security in hand so that these infrastructure projects would be developed regardless.
That's correct. The security is in the form of an irrevocable letter of credit, which is in the amount of 130% of the estimate of construction costs, or the bid, whichever's higher. So the city feels that they have enough protection to actually get the performance of the public improvements. The developer also referenced there is an additional security. The developers provided a guarantee, which goes one step beyond that.
So taxpayers are secured.
It is your legal counsel and your outside legal counsel's recommendation that this appears to be appropriate security.
Thank you.
Alderman Metcalf, you's next, sir.
Yes, thank you, Brett, for being here. Appreciate that. You said that you were the developers under contract with Aldi. Is that an agreement you have with Aldi to just for this specific site here in Ozark, or is it just an agreement that you have with Aldi's all over the country per se?
No, It's specific to this particular site. When we get the presentation going on the second bill, I'll show you exactly where it is.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Is anyone else here who wants to speak for Bill 3646? Okay. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kristen Hazeltine, Show Me Christian County, 113 East Church Street. Before I start with my comments tonight, I wanted to let everybody know that I actually have prepared statements on behalf of our board of directors. Show Me Christian County is made up of 51 different partners, including business owners and employers, our incorporated communities, our county, our chambers of commerce, and various other partners who all convene regularly to collaborate and grow Christian County in a positive manner. Our job is not to advocate for growth just to have it. We want the types of development that are going to do good things for our communities, whether it's creating jobs, supporting quality of life efforts, or expanding our local tax base to provide necessary services for our residents. As many of you know, Show Me Christian County has been working on this project since the summer of 2022. Nearly 3 years ago, it started with a simple conversation with the property owner and his family to talk about their desires and what they would like to do with the property. They clearly expressed a desire to sell the front 20 acres for commercial use, which aligned with the comprehensive plan. We were asked to connect the family with several real estate developers. Ultimately, the landowner determined to work with Mr. Tessing because of his local ties living in Christian County and because he's done developments all over. In the spring of 2023, the property had been on the market for about a year with no buyers in sight for this prime retail location because of the lack of infrastructure, the cost of the property, and the offsite improvements needed to make a development viable. During the summer of 2023, Mr. Tessing requested a meeting with our partners, including Spire, our electric utility providers, the Ozark Fire Department, the Ozark Special Road District, Show Me Christian County, and the city team to discuss the property and how to make a retail development happen. There had been many subsequent meetings to discuss plans for the project with all of these entities. In June of 2024, Mr. Tessing and Mr. Rubal presented at the Board of Aldermen breakfast meeting to share plans, discuss development needs and incentives needed to make the project viable, and to also answer questions from the board. During these past 3 years, Mr. Tessing and his team have been diligently working out the details with MoDOT, OSRD, the city, the family, landowners, utility partners, and their banking institution. The development team proactively showcased the Ozark community in this development to obtain letters of intent, like Aldi's, to move the project forward with financing. They have performed years of due diligence, listened to the recommendations from the various taxing districts, and are now in a position to start work on this development. We are in the final stages to move this development forward, and tonight is a very exciting night for the city of Ozark. Show Me Christian County has done our part to connect property owners with local developers in hopes of creating viable sites for new businesses, which has been our charge from the Board of Aldermen and our partners since our founding. We appreciate your partnership to grow Ozark in a sustainable and forward-thinking way, and I ask that you approve the development agreement tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else who would speak for Bill number 3646? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Is anyone here who would like to speak against Bill 3646? This is now your time. Okay, I'm not seeing movement, so I'm now going to close to the public at this time. Any final board comments?
Let's do it this way. Okay. I apologize for having my back to you. So this property here is the property that we're talking about here tonight. It's at the northeast corner of Highway 65 and South Street, Business 65. This is part of the Warren Family Century Farm. It's been a farm since day one, millions of years. Whatever it was used before the Warrens owned it, I don't know, but that's the history. The whole property is approximately 40 acres. The outline you see here is that front 20 acres that Kristen talked about earlier, and these what I call Mickey Mouse ears back here are the detention ponds. And so that's why you see approximately there's 25 to 26 acres that are shown right there. So what are we doing? So what we're doing is as developers, what we're doing is we're getting everything ready for developers, others, et cetera, to build. We may lease some of this land, we may sell some of this land, we may build some of this ourselves. Not all this is set at this point, but basically what we're doing is we're putting it in place. So there's 13 platted lots ready for commercial real estate development. I'll get into the first 5 businesses that we're ready to announce tonight. We're working on several others, but we have permission for the first 5. So what do we need to do in order to get it ready for commercial development? Well, we have to, and I'm going to go to a picture first, if you don't mind. This is the outline of the CID area. And so it includes all the Warren property that you see, and it also includes right away along 20th Street, South Street, existing 19th Street, and then also, it doesn't include any of 17th Street because that's OSRD, that's not City of Ozark. But as you can see here, we will be extending Waverly Street from behind Walgreens over here all the way to the west to connect to 20th Street. We'll be adding in a new 19th Street to tee into that Waverly Street. We're going to be reconfiguring South Street to allow for traffic flow in and out of the development. We're going to be reworking the intersection of 19th Street south of South Street in order to allow traffic to go through up to 19th Street and continue 2 lefts, 1 right on a South Street. And we'll be doing some improvements over here on South Street as well. That'll be a right in, right out over there. So traffic signal work, redo of reconfiguration of South Street, putting in 19th Street, Waverly Street, putting in the regional detention centers, and then also utilities, bringing in utilities to serve all of the above. So there's kind of the summary there that I just talked about. So what at the end of the day, once it's the complete, we have to make some assumptions, of course, because we don't yet have all 13 businesses lined up. But based on discussions that we've been having with interested businesses and experience with other similar developments that we've done, what is this ultimately going to mean once everything is done, complete, stabilized, and built, which we anticipate to occur quickly. We've anticipated a timeline of 3 to 4 years. We hope to beat that. But we believe there's going to be over $50 million in construction on this project. That's all the construction that I just talked about right there. Plus that's vertical construction, again, done by us or by others. We estimate that there's going to be over 48 million in taxable sales upon full build out and stabilization. That, if my math is correct, assuming that is correct, that's at 2.35%. That should be over $1 million a year in annual revenue to the City of Ozark. Of course, the county gets their share, the state gets their share, all that stuff. And then estimated 6.4 million in assessed valuation upon full build out. It's now $8,038. So we're going to go from a very underutilized piece of ground here in Ozark, right across from a major economic center, the Walmart and Lowe's Center, and be able to not match that. It's hard to match Walmart and Lowe's, but be able to turn this into a very viable and economic center for City of Ozark and provide a bunch of services that'll be very helpful to the city while creating a nice tax base and also and also new jobs. So 13 new businesses there. We've, again, using the same scheduled businesses that we're estimating to be in there. It's a large range, but we've estimated between 250 and 400 new jobs upon full build out. So where do we go from here? These things take a long time, twice as much as you might even think on the front end of this. But we now have everything teed up to the point where we're in the final comments of our plan sets, our permit sets, construction permit sets for the public improvements with the City of Ozark and the various and MoDOT. We believe we've gone in for a second round of comments there. We believe that we've got a path. I think it's reasonable to assume that we can satisfy everybody's last comments and concerns and obtain permits within about 30 days. We have to put the project out for bid, and we expect to turn dirt very quickly once we get those permits. As I mentioned earlier, we have estimated about a 6-month construction schedule for the public improvements. So that puts us into the fall. We hope to beat that, but we all could be late, weather dependent, construction goes. And so all the businesses that we've talked to are all interested in, I mentioned earlier that Aldi is really the driving force behind the development agreement. But in discussions with the tenants and businesses, they all expressed an interest in moving early if possible. So we do expect, like I said, in 2025 and certainly 2026, first phase of the new businesses. And then we have made assumptions based on sort of a next phase of businesses in 2027 and a last phase in 2029. Again, that's it's a 5-year or so build out stabilization. I believe we can beat that. So going back here to the plat, and so at this point, then we can show you which lots belong to which businesses. So as you can see, there, lot 13 along Highway 65. That is the site that Aldi has selected. They're very excited to come to the market. We're very excited to bring them to the market. Lot 2, Plaza Tire Service. They have a big presence here in the Ozarks. Lot 3, McDonald's. Lot 4, Casey's. Lot 5, Dutch Brothers. Dutch Brothers is new to Southwest Missouri. This would be one of the first ones in Southwest Missouri. We are under discussions on several of the other lots, but not far enough, not anything in I would say writing that I'm comfortable sort of announcing at this point. But we did get permission to announce these 5. Is it okay to? Was that buzzing at me? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, I apologize.
No, you're not on time limit because you're presenting a.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah. Okay, so where have we been? We started, as Kristen mentioned earlier, we actually started with a breakfast meeting just to, for you all to kind of present really a redo of what we're doing here tonight. We presented our general plan of what we're doing and our general suggestion of what it would take from an economic incentive package in order to basically make this a viable package by giving us a mechanism to repay the public improvements. And we talked at that point about a CID in 353 and got positive feedback in that June meeting. And so we continue to move forward. We moved to annexation, got that completed in November. Zoning was completed on the same evening to switch it to a C2 General Commercial District. And the preliminary plat was approved in January 2025. So I'm going to, again, let Mr. Engel kind of talk about the nuts and bolts, but I'd like to talk to you about the generalities of the CID. This is again, the outline of the CID. In order to be subject to a reimbursable cost, it has to, the work has to be within the boundaries of the CID. So the boundaries of the CID here are either public right-of-way within the city, and it all has to be within the city. So everything you see here is within the city. It's either owned as part of that Warren Farm or is public right-of-way. So I'm going to let, again, Brian get into this, but I'd like to just kind of explain how these two work hand in hand, the CID and the 353. The CID allows us to do, there's two mechanisms to reimburse us for the public improvements. And so there's no risk to the city on this. We as developers front all the costs for all the public improvements. So if this development fails, that's on us. That's not on you. That's not on the tax-paying citizens of the city of Ozark. And so what this does is gives us an opportunity, if the development is successful, to repay these public improvement costs. And there's two mechanisms to do it through the CID. One is an extra sales tax. It's a 1% sales tax. That's not unusual. There's a lot of different taxing jurisdictions. One's literally right across the street. There's a TDD across the street at Lowe's and Walmart that is an extra 1 cent sales tax. There's several, Deerbrook, there's several across the city. The other one that is, the other CID funding mechanism is a real estate assessment. Now, it is not a good sales tactic to recruit businesses by saying you're going to pay extra property tax. So this works with the 353 in the sense that the 353 freezes the property. I'm not going to get the specifics, but in general, it freezes the property tax at current levels. And then the assessment will allow us to capture the what the property tax would be if it were just taxed normally. So if right now, for example, Aldi's goes in and the tax on their lot is currently today $5. You know, it's not much. It's basically zero. Let's say for argument or for example purposes, it's $1,000. And let's say once they're developed, that would be $50,000. This will freeze it at $1,000, allow us to put an assessment on to capture that $49,000 approximately. We'll approximate that the best we can, and this will be done through the assessor's office. And that money would then go to pay down basically the approved costs of the public improvements. So the public improvements budget, which we'll go through here in a little bit, is about $7 million for land acquisition, all the public improvements, all those sorts of things. That's just a budget. Actual numbers will come in, appraisals will come in, and that will be later. But this allows us to basically have a chance to have those public improvement funds that we're funding paid back. The other thing it does allow us to do is to recruit businesses in terms of having a benefit. Once those public improvements are paid off, then any remaining benefits of that 353 would flow to the businesses, and it allows us to recruit businesses in from that tax perspective as well. So with that said, I just kind of wanted to explain generally what we are. I'm going to turn it over to Brian Engel to talk about the nuts and bolts of the CID, unless you have any questions for me first. I don't know how you want to do that.
I'm
Happy to
not
answer
seeing
questions
any. Yeah, go
afterwards,
ahead.
too.
Yes, I'm not seeing any at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Aldermen. My name is Brian Engel. I'm an attorney with the Rouse Bretts White Goss Law Firm in Kansas City, 4510 Bellevue Avenue, Suite 300. And I'm very excited to be here tonight and to talk to you about this project. As Brett said, I've been working with Brett since last year on this project, and also with along with Sarah in putting together the documentation for the CID and the 353. So as Brett said, the CID is a funding mechanism. What is before you this evening is a petition to establish the CID. There are two threshold requirements in order for the governing body to approve a new community improvement district. The submission of the petition requires that at least 50% of the per capita property owners within the CID sign the petition. And that has been achieved since there's just one property owner in this case. And then the second threshold is that the at least 50%, greater than 50% of the assessed value of the property within the CID is also reflected in the signature pages of the property owners who signed the petition. And again, with one property owner, that has been achieved as well. Under the statute, the term of the CID, the maximum term is for 27 years. So these funding mechanisms are going to be initially approved for 27 years from the date of the city's ordinance approving the CID. The CID can be terminated before then if all of the redevelopment costs are reimbursed earlier. Then the CID can be collapsed, and there's a separate procedure for that as well. There's also a procedure in the statute to extend the CID with further board action for up to an additional 27 years. But we won't worry about that tonight. So, as Brett said, the CID is being formed in order to fund public improvements that include land acquisition for public roads and detention areas that you've seen on the map. That also includes site preparation and mass grading for the entire development area. It also includes utilities and public right-of-way and easements, and also the public roads that Brett talked about, the extension of Waverly through the development site, and then also the access points on 20th, the extension of 19th Street to South Street, and then also at 17th Street. So the funding mechanisms, as Brett touched on as well, there's a maximum 1% additional sales tax that would be charged by the new businesses in the district, paid by their customers, that would be collected by the Department of Revenue every month and then paid back to the CID. And the CID can use that money to make reimbursements to the developer for approved project costs. The second funding mechanism is a special assessment at a maximum rate of $10 per $100 of assessed valuation. And so the special assessment is imposed by the CID, but it's actually added to the property tax bills each year by the county collector. So the CID will transfer that information each year to the county. The county will input the special assessment on each property owner's tax bill for that particular tax parcel every year. So it's an efficient way to collect those special assessment dollars. And again, once those funds are collected, then they become available to reimburse the developer for approved development costs. Another feature of this CID is there's a request that the city make a finding of blight. And in the petition, there is a blight study that was prepared by a third-party consultant, Starrett Urban LLC. Pat Starrett is participating tonight by Zoom. And so he'll be available to answer any questions you might have about the blight study. The primary purpose of the blight, as discussed in the study, is to address flooding issues in the area. And it's believed that the regional detention sites, the two detention sites that are planned as part of the project, will address those concerns. So Brett mentioned a budget. This is an exhibit that's in the CID petition. And these are estimated project costs for grading, utilities, road construction, and construction of the detention areas. The estimated cost of $4.25 million. Also, the acquisition of the property for the public road and the regional detention areas is estimated at $2.4 million. And then associated costs for consultant fees, professional fees, engineering, legal, and development fees, $425,000. The maximum, or excuse me, a total of $7,075,000. Okay, I think Brett touched on this as well, that the developer is fronting all of the initial costs. The CID is not issuing bonds, so all of the risk is on the developer to fund these costs up front. And then, of course, becomes eligible for reimbursement through the CID and the 353. There will be separate agreements among the CID, the city, and the developer, a cooperative agreement. There's also a separate development agreement on the 353 incentive as well that will include the city, the 353 Redevelopment Corporation, which has been formed by the developer as well. And so the CID sales tax, upon full build out of all three phases of the project, is expected to generate approximately $480,000 in annual revenue. Of course, right now that number is zero because there's no retail sales within the CID. And the special assessment is projected to generate approximately $350,000 in annual revenue upon full build out. And this information is duplicated in the 5-year plan budget, which is also attached to the CID petition. There's more detail there than I'm going to discuss tonight. I'm happy to answer any more questions that you might have about the budget on the revenue side or the cost side. Okay. Before I start going over the 353 plan, any questions about the CID?
Alderman Campbell.
I think I know the answer to my question, but I'd like to hear it from an expert. Whenever we're looking at a CID or putting a CID or a 353 into effect, does that make the project fall under a state prevailing wage statute or anything like that?
It does. So with respect to the public improvements, the CID is a public entity. It's a public body and has taxing authority, just like the city. And so it is subject to the same requirements that the city has when the city builds a road. So prevailing wage is a requirement. Public bidding and contracting is necessary, and payment of performance bonds as well.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time? Yes, ma'am.
So just looking at these general figures, I guess my question is that total investment of $7,075,000. If you have to take out a loan to do that, then is the interest also repayable through these funds? So at $515,000 a year, it will take quite a bit more than 14 years to pay that back. Is that right?
Yes, yes, so.
Because you're paying interest as well.
That's correct. So the developer will obtain a loan for the construction of the improvements, and then we'll be paying interest on that loan to the lender. And so those financing costs are reimbursable as well.
Can you give me an estimate then of how long it will take to repay the developer for those investments in the public infrastructure?
I don't know if we have an amortization on the payoff.
What I can say is we try to be conservative on both sides. And if these conservative numbers hold true, it is going to be a 20 to 25 year repayment process. I believe we're being conservative. I'd say most optimistically, it's a 12 to 15 year process. And so hopefully that gives you a range.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't see anybody else with questions right now.
Thank you. And so I'll start discussion on the 353 as well.
I think they wanted, I have to care what we want to do until 353.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh.
This is the subject of the next ordinance.
I think Alderman Hutchinson
So we'll separate.
had another question.
Oh, sorry.
I had a follow-up question to that. So after it is paid off, then you referred to that money could go to the businesses within the development. Did I hear that wrong, or can you explain that a little further?
That does jump into the 353 discussion. The 353 is it's a graduated abatement program of real estate tax over 25 years. And so if the CID costs, whatever they ultimately are paid off through this process early, then there's no reason for us to continue the sales tax or the assessment. That goes away. The 353 would remain. And so if there's remaining 5 years on it or 10 years or whatever, that remaining abatement now would pass on, of course, to the business owners. So like, for example, there's only a 12.5% abatement the last 5 years versus 100% the first 5 years. It's graduated down, down, down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to kind of close the circle here on the CID and see if that leaves you all with any other questions. I think the developer and Brian did a great job kind of laying out the project and explaining it. I want to touch on maybe a couple more items that I think would be important to the city on the CID. So to go to the interest repayment, what happens after costs are repaid, all of that, I do want to highlight, and this was in your explanation sheet, that there will be a cooperative agreement that goes along with the CID. That's currently being negotiated, and one of the idea of not having it at the same time is that we want to hear everyone's feedback and make sure we know what's important to the council or to the board as we move forward. But in that agreement is where we would outline items like reimbursable interest, and we'll typically have a cap on that of an interest rate, whether it's set by a market rate, a fluctuating rate, and that it has to be an outside lender versus a private lender, things like that. And then we would also in there say that the CID would wrap up after project costs are paid, things like that. So that I just wanted to highlight that is forthcoming. Those negotiations are ongoing kind of between all parties to make sure that the city's interests there are protected as well. Another aspect I wanted to highlight on, so as it's been mentioned, a community improvement district is a separate political subdivision. The city is empowered to set up this CID. It is then governed on an ongoing basis by a board of directors. The board of directors in this instance is set up to be a 5-member board. We've set it up so that one of those board members will be a city staff member named in the petition right now, but on an ongoing basis. So that's kind of a way that Gilmore and Bell at least usually likes to have a city member on the boards of CIDs to keep in touch with what's happening, making sure that, processes are being followed, the city's interests still are protected, and it doesn't kind of, not that it would here, but just in general, a CID doesn't kind of run away from the city, if you will. So I wanted to highlight that also. While there is a blight study here, and in a CID that allows for very limited use on private costs with a blight study, because this is vacant land, it's actually still limited in what the CID can do with the CID revenue. So the CID revenue can still only reimburse for public costs. And you see that in a couple of slides back on the list of improvements. And so these CID funds are going to be limited to only public uses. And that's why while we have some nice businesses coming, and that's going to be great, and the development, the vertical construction is going to be great, we're really looking at the horizontal construction with what can be done with these CID revenues, and that has to do with the base preliminary platted area, right, the subdivision. And so I just wanted to highlight that the CID funds are only going to be used for those public purposes or public improvements. So with that, I think that has kind of circled, Brett and Brian both mentioned, obviously, a lot of different factors about the CID. Just want to note, again, it's an additional tax. So all of the sales taxes that would typically be generated anywhere in the city will be collected and distributed as normal on any sales within the CID. And the special assessment, again, it's been alluded to, but it's going to have a kind of inverse de-escalator from the 353 that we'll talk about in a little bit. So the net effect to any person paying real property within the district will be as if there was a normal tax bill. It's not going to increase or decrease what a property owner is paying. It does obviously impact where that money goes. It's a redirection of that versus if it was paid on a normal taxing entity. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions on the CID specifically. Yeah.
Okay, Snyder, you was first.
Yes, ma'am. Just for clarification, a lot of folks don't understand the CID. So the 1 cent sales tax is specific to that shopping area. Is that correct? It is not a citywide tax?
No, correct. So it is an additional, and it's up to 1%. I'm sure that they'll levy it at 1%, but theoretically it could be at a lower percentage. It's up to 1% tax within the CID boundaries only. And it, again, the maximum that would be authorized under this would be 27 years. The cooperative agreement we will enter into, likely, again, being negotiated, likely I would expect would require it to be terminated as soon as costs are paid. And then with that, I do want to mention one more thing. So as I believe Brett mentioned, there is a boundary to the district. The CID Act requires that all improvements that are funded out of CID revenues be within the boundaries, and the boundaries have to be contiguous. So they have to be connected. You can't kind of reach out and grab other areas. And so the map that you see there is contiguous. Everything that will be funded is within, and that's also why the sales tax is only generated within the boundaries.
Okay, Alderman Campbell, sir.
On one of the slides that the gentleman just before you showed, I probably didn't read it good enough, but I don't understand. I need clarification. When he talked about, whenever the slide showed that the funds could be used for, I'm going to say site grading. I don't know if that's exactly what it said or not, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly that this would not be site grading for the entire project. It would only be site grading for the road improvements or those areas.
Correct. So on page 2 of the 5-year plan, which is Exhibit D to the petition, just in case you wanted to look at it,
okay.
Site preparation is described. And so it's mass grading, but it's only as it relates to the public roads, utilities, or the regional detention areas.
Okay.
So yes, it would not be for under Aldi, right? Or something like that, under a specific building. It'd be for the public areas.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay, thank you. And I would just remind the board that this is a public hearing. So as you would typically do on, I think, most of your bills, but we do want to make sure we open it to the public.
Yes. Yes. So at this time, we're going to open to the public. Anyone who wishes to speak to this bill?
Good evening, Mayor and Aldermen. Kristen Hazeltine, Show Me Christian County Economic Development, 113 East Church Street. I previously mentioned that this property sat for sale for about a year without serious interest because of the cost of development to the site. The cost to purchase the property, to build the roads, the sidewalks, to bring utilities, to make improvements to the adjoining streets, the attorney fees, the engineering fees, and the cost of various studies needed are all part of the cost that Mr. Tessing is taking on to build this site out and to bring in new business. He is making an investment without a guarantee on his return on investment. A CID is allowed by state statute because most developers and cities do not have the funds to adequately build out the infrastructure by themselves for the purpose of retail development. In order for Missouri communities to grow, the state created these tools to leverage public-private partnership to facilitate commercial development. Show Me Christian County believes that this is a proper use of a CID and asks the board to approve this request. Before I sit down, there is one other piece of information that I would like to share with the board tonight that we pulled from Placer AI, which is a data resource that uses consumer cell phone data to measure visits to a particular location. The data is commonly used by retail developers and commercial brokers to evaluate a site. As you know, Lowe's is just catty corner from this proposed development, and we pulled the Placer report to the consumers for a period of 6 months in 2024. The report showed that 75% of the people that were shopping there came from outside of the 65721 zip code. During that 6-month time frame, there were over 510,000 visits to Lowe's. Of these, more than 100 zip codes were represented. In addition, we learned that the vast majority of the visitors also went to another retail location in Ozark before and after they went to Lowe's. I share this data because this development not only serves the city of Ozark residents, but it also serves people from 100 different zip codes. The area of Ozark is a major regional draw for shopping, and this development will help grow the tax base from people who live outside of the city boundaries. The general revenue sales tax that will be generated will be able to support initiatives the city currently lacks funding for. We ask that you approve the Community Improvement District tonight to support the city of Ozark's growing economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else from the public who wishes to speak? This is your time.
Jeannie McFall, 1324 East Warren, Ozark, Missouri. I'm in favor of the project, but I just want a clarification. The CID, can it be renewed the way the transportation district was on the south side?
I guess at this time, we need to ask someone to come to answer her question.
Sorry, I wasn't sure y'all's
Yeah.
position on answering speakers. Yes,
I'm gonna take-
by statute, it can be renewed. It would go through the same process of a mailing out of petition, public hearing, and approval by the council or the board.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else who wishes to speak?
Good evening, William Vaughn, 2801 West River Bluff Drive in Ozark. This might be the strangest encouragement and also question about this. I love this development. This sounds fantastic. That said, just by the questions I've heard tonight, there are a lot of unanswered questions before this board. I've not heard from the Ozark Special Road District. I've not heard from MoDOT. I've not heard from the impact from the county collector and the assessor's office. While I encourage the Board of Aldermen to move this CID forward, I would ask you all, the 4 that are elected and the 2 that are appointed, to not expeditiously move this to final reading, to take an opportunity to reach out and to speak with your constituents, to get all the answers, and bring this back in 2 weeks for a final reading. Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to speak at this time?
Hi, Anna Evans, 113 East Church Street, Ozark. I also, again, just want to reiterate my support and our support for moving forward with this bill. And just, I wasn't going to speak, but just to provide some clarification and hopefully to ease some fears from the last comment, the CID specific is, or the Community Improvement District specifically is an additional sales tax. And so as such, it would not be a tax, that would be a property tax that affects the other districts. It would be a sales tax. So and as the attorney mentioned, all of the sales taxes that normally would be charged are still charged and still collected and still spent exactly how the city and the county and the other, the state, the entities that receive those are able to spend them. It would just be an additional 1% tax or fee that is levied on the customers that are using the businesses and these public improvements. So no worries on that front on the Community Improvement District front. And again, want to support it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else from the public? Okay, I am not seeing movement. So at this time, bill number 3647 is now closed. And as this is a public hearing for bill number 3647, this is now going to be held over to a future meeting. We're now going to draw attention to item bill 3648, which is actually a taxing jurisdiction hearing. And therefore, at this time, it does not require a vote. I'm going to open this up to now open, and we'll recognize Sarah.
Just a
Oh,
point of
sorry.
clarification here for the bill number 3647, which we just heard on. I think the statement that you made was that the public hearing was now closed.
Yes.
And that bill will be held over for its second reading at our next regularly scheduled meeting. Then on item 3648, which is the next bill on the agenda, we do the public hearing in conjunction with our first reading. So you're going to do it just like you normally would, and then follow the itemized list we provided you. So the board will make a motion in a second, and then there'll be a vote to read it, so we can actually read the bill and do the first and the public hearing at the same time, if that's all right with you.
Oh, no, thank you for the clarification. So, okay, so let's start again. Okay, so anyway, we'll now draw attention to bill number 3648, and this is on its first reading.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3648 on its first reading by title only.
And it's second by, okay. So the motion is that we place bill number 3648 on its first reading by title only. That was made by Alderman Galloway. It's second by Alderman Campbell. All in favor to discuss bill number 3648, do so by show of hands. And that does carry.
An ordinance approving the Chapter 353 redevelopment plan for the Ozark Marketplace Redevelopment Corporation, declaring the area described in the redevelopment plan to be a blighted area, taking other actions to implement the redevelopment plan, and approving a redevelopment agreement. As a reminder, this is another public hearing. This one's related to taxing jurisdictions. There is an itemized list of how this public hearing will operate on the agenda. And with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you to open the public hearing.
Okay, I will now officially open it up, and we'll recognize again, Sarah Reneth.
Thank you, Mayor. And so on this chapter 353, I'm actually going to turn it right on over to Brian to finish his presentation he made, started to talk about 353 incentive, and then I will again wrap it up and make sure we kind of go over everything that needs to be covered here.
Thank you, Sarah. Brian Engel again. And I'd like to pick up where I left off on the second incentive that is being considered tonight, and this is the 353 development plan. And you can see on the map that this is the boundary of the 353 redevelopment area. So it differs slightly from the CID in that it doesn't include any of the public right-of-way extensions that the CID does. And so this is the property for the redevelopment project. The 353 offers an additional incentive to the developer in the form of tax abatement. So when the 353 is activated, what that requires is a transfer of title to the property to the 353 Redevelopment Corporation, which is a separate entity that has been formed with the Missouri Secretary of State. And it's an instantaneous transfer of property by a quitclaim deed from the property owner into the 353 Redevelopment Corporation, and then immediately back from the 353 Redevelopment Corporation back to the property owner. That triggers the tax abatement at such time as the developer wants to initiate the abatement. The abatement is for a term of up to 25 years. And under the statute, the first 10 years are abated at 50%, or excuse me, 100%, except for the land value. The land value stays constant. And then the remaining 15 years are abated at 50% land and improvements. That's the statutory abatement. You can actually go higher than that. And cities have different policies. And of course, Ozark has its own policy on the extent of the abatement. And so I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Oops, excuse me. So in 5-year increments, the abatement will ratchet down. And these are percentages that are approved according to city policy. And so this is how, as Sarah mentioned earlier, the 353 and the CID special assessment will work in tandem with each other, so that as the abatement ratchets down, the assessment will go up. So the effect will be a leveling of the taxes that the property owners pay during the term of the abatement. And so as with the CID, there is a blight finding that is required for the 353. It's the same blight study that is included in the CID petition. It's also included in the development plan for the 353. It also includes a tax impact analysis. This is a detailed study that was done by Starrett Urban LLC that examines the impact of each taxing jurisdiction as the abatement is reduced during the 25-year term of the abatement. And so as part of the plan, there's a very detailed study that shows each impact on each taxing jurisdiction that is available to you in your packets. If you have any questions about those, we're happy to answer any questions you might have as well. Pat Starrett is available to answer those questions. And so just as an example, the current assessed valuation of this property as of 2024 was $8,038. That's at it was reclassified as commercial property when the property was rezoned by the city last year. And so the amount of property taxes that the owner paid was $614.80. So you will see what the impact of the development will be on the assessed valuation. It's estimated that upon full build out, the assessed valuation in total will be $6.4 million. And that the estimated real property taxes during the first year after build out, $203,389. And then over the term of the abatement, it's estimated during the final year, the taxes will increase to over $1.1 million. So you can see the impact that the development will have on property taxes within the redevelopment area. Those also includes reimbursements to the ambulance and the fire protection districts that are required by statute and that will be agreed to separately with each of those emergency districts. So that's a brief summary of the 353 tax abatement incentive. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
We'll start with Alderman Campbell.
For the benefit of the audience, could you just tell us in what ways the property qualifies for blighting?
So the main concern on this property is flooding.
I'm sorry?
Is flooding, and the impact on public roads and infrastructure. And so the 2 detention areas are intended to address those problems by building 2 regional detention areas that will serve not only this development, but are being designed to accommodate stormwater from any future developments in the area.
And can I just do a quick
Oh, yes.
follow-up?
If I could add real quick, Mr. Campbell, the other part of this to address, this is Rock Hill Road, flooding down in that area.
Is what? I'm sorry.
Rock Hill Road.
Oh,
and
okay.
17th Street, Rock Hill Road, 17th Street. So we did 2 things. We over-engineered or way oversized those detention centers so we could bring in runoff from additional area outside of our development. And the other thing that we engineered is to oversize the culverts going through Rock Hill Road to help alleviate that as well. And so the engineers have put those 2 things together to alleviate that flooding situation. Mr. Sterrett is on via Zoom, who performed the blight study. If you'd like him to join.
Yes. So I guess the 2 questions I've got left, if you heard what I asked previously, would be, number 1 would be, are we dealing with water quantity and quality both? That would be one question. And the other question would be, he had just mentioned, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but he had mentioned that the culverts going through or under Rock Hill Road would be oversized. And so that means that you will have some off-site improvements carrying the stormwater beyond Rock Hill Road, correct?
The engineer also happens to be here as well, just in case a technical question came up. He's probably best answer that second question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Caleb, with O.
Yes, for these culverts over at Rock Hill Road, we did an analysis using Ozark standards for stormwater modeling, and basically we determined that that road was being overtopped during the design storms. So we are going to be putting in 4 culverts at some low spots in that road, and basically that will bring that storm sewer system up to the city standards.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Alderman Snyder is next.
I have a couple of questions. This may be directed to Mr. Sterrett on Zoom.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Mr. Sterrett?
Yes.
Can you give me the definition of blight according to the state of Missouri real quick?
Sure. I have it right here. It's an area which, by reason of the predominance of insanitary or unsafe conditions, deterioration of site improvements, or the existence of conditions which endanger life or property by fire and other causes, or any combination of such factors, retards the provision of housing accommodations or constitutes an economic or social liability or a menace to the public health, safety, or welfare in its present condition and use.
Okay. Can you tell me how you come up with the definition of blight relating to this property, and tell me how you believe this needs to be blighted for this project?
Sure. All three of what we call, what I refer to as kind of cause factors. These are the blighting factors that are mentioned in the definition, including insanitary or unsafe conditions, which I think has been the primary topic of discussion this evening, which is the poor drainage, which results in the flooding of Rock Hill Road, on the northern section of the study area, the redevelopment area, and the land that's in between the redevelopment area and the road itself, Rock Hill Road. There are also some other unsafe conditions, such as the lack of shoulders on the roads. I believe it's 20th Street in particular, as well as 17th. There's also some overgrown vegetation. The deterioration of structures primarily is with regard to gates and the gravel road, and so all three factors are actually satisfied. These all lead to an economic liability as well as a menace to the public health, particularly with regard to the flooding.
Okay, with respect, I have two more if that's permissible.
Yeah, yes.
When was the last major flooding event on Rock Hill Road that you were actually witnessing for your study?
I did not witness it, but it's certainly flooding has been by other witness. Flooding has been witnessed, and I think the engineering study shows that under a design condition per the city of Ozark, that water does overtop that road.
Okay, and the last thing I have, this may be directed for the attorney here. For blight, doesn't that only apply, or does it apply for development or redevelopment of a property? Because I don't believe this property's ever been developed, and I believe blight says it has to be redeveloped.
So the definition of blight and the chapter 353 does not require a redevelopment. That would be the more limited use that the CID statute allows. So that's what I was mentioning, where a blight study is nice in a CID, but doesn't necessarily, in this instance, get them to development because there's nothing there to redevelop. 353 is different in the fact that a blight study, a blight finding allows the broader use of development. It does not require a redevelopment in that instance.
Okay, and Alderman Campbell brought up a very valid point with, they're going to re-engineer some places to prevent flooding, but how is that going to affect 17th Street, like around 17th and Robin, in that area right there? Because if there is significant flooding, wouldn't that need to be addressed as well during this construction?
I apologize, I do not live in Ozark.
No, I
but
understand.
17th and Robin, from my understanding, is separate from this location. And so I don't know that it impacts that, right? Am I understanding that correct? That 17th and Robin is not at this location?
I think the engineer's coming up.
Yes,
Okay.
I would definitely like an answer
Yeah,
on
I was
that
going
one.
to say the
He
engineer's
did
probably
better.
better.
Answered your question, sir.
So I would say Robin and 17th Street would be a distinct issue from the improvements that we're making to Rock Hill Road. So as far as the flooding at Robin and 17th Street, I would say the detention basins that we're proposing will have an improvement on the peak flow rates that Robin and 17th Street experience. The culverts at Rock Hill Road are something that we are proposing to basically improve the flooding at that specific location. So that roadway is no longer flooded, and traffic can cross during the 25-year storm and such.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Campbell.
Just from my own observation, a question that was asked and answered. I drive Rock Hill Road twice a day, 5 days a week, and I can attest to the fact that it floods down there in front of the Warrens' houses, if that's who lives there. But I can attest to that. You can see the gravel sediment. You could probably drive out there right now and see the sediment where it's washed over the road.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Alderman Aiken?
Yes, mine's probably a question for outside counsel. So if we made a determination, we accept the recommendation by the blight study and we make that finding, in that determination say we're deemed invalid, first of all, in what context would that come about? And what would the potential liability be for the city?
Right, yeah, so what's the city's liability? So I'm going to take you on a little bit of statutory progression here for just a second, so bear with me. So chapter 353, which is what this redevelopment corporation would be, refers back to the statutes on TIF, tax increment financing, for the blight area definition. Okay, so it just says, see this definition in statute 99.805. So that's where we get the definition of blighted area that Mr. Sterrett read to you earlier. Also in the TIF statutes, and so from a legal standpoint, our reference of, okay, this is a blighted area, how do we find this blighted area? We would look to our context in the statute, the same statute. It says that such a finding can include a study prepared by, then it lists, land use planner, urban planner, different entities, of which Mr. Sterrett's organization is one. And then includes a detailed description of those factors that qualify the area or project, and an affidavit signed by the developer and submitted with the plan attesting to the provisions. And so that's all been accomplished with this blight study. At that point, it is the city's determination of a finding of blight. That would be reviewed if it went to a court case on an arbitrary and capricious standard, which is a relatively high standard. It would defer to the city's judgment. This is a judgment call. And I would say from a legal standpoint, again, this is not me commenting on the blight study, I did not do that, but from a city's council perspective, if you've relied on a blight study done by a licensed professional that qualifies under the statutes that outline the blighted definition, I think that that is a very safe position for the city to be in. Subject to, again, that the court's standard of review on that I mentioned.
Thank you. Can I? Mr. Sterrett, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So, I think the blight finding issue raises some confusion because people look at this and it's a pasture with bad drainage, and that description could apply to a lot of property in our area. You have a CV, I see, in the document that we received, your report, that lists you as the author of numerous blight studies. And I'm just curious how this one compares, if there's anything unusual about the finding of blight here compared to your past experience.
In my past experience, it's not any different than a number of other, probably half dozen to a dozen blight studies that I've performed, where it's mostly open ground. And as long as there are, especially with Chapter 353 involved, as long as there are some man-made improvements, and it's those improvements that are causing the blight, there should be no problem at all with a finding of blight. Those blight studies that I've done that have gone on to trial for one reason or another have all come back and have all been upheld. So I have no problem that if this were to go to court, if it was challenged, that it also would be upheld.
Okay. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Any other questions? Yes, Alderman Campbell.
I don't know if this is out of courtesy or what, but I do feel we should get our own city attorney's opinion on the question that was just raised.
Well, as the city's legal counsel, I also rely on our outside counsel and our outside counsel's judgment of that, question that was posed. And so I would agree with Sarah's assessment of that, that finding.
Okay. Anyone else from the board? Okay. I'm not seeing any. Therefore, does anyone from the public wish to speak regarding this bill? This is your time. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm going to hop back. I know we got a little bit sidetracked.
I'm sorry. I thought you said. Apologize.
I do want to kind of circle up again on the 353 and just kind of finish that presentation, and then absolutely any more questions or comments from the public.
Sorry, I thought you was done.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So on the 353, we talked about how a CID is, it's a new district, it's a political subdivision, and that's how that works. I want to hone in a little bit on how the 353 works. And so, as Brian mentioned, there's a corporation that's formed. It's a separate entity from the developer, but it is a developer entity in that sense. And so the city will designate a redevelopment area that qualifies as blighted. So that's a lot of what we've been talking about now. And then you would, assuming that you make that finding, you would adopt a development plan. And that is also in your packet tonight. And with that development plan, it would designate the redevelopment area that we've been talking about and states the objectives that we would like to accomplish with this development plan that's going to be undertaken. You then, through that development plan and this process, would approve a redevelopment project. And that is the project that's actually going to be undertaken under the plan. So lots of layers there to get to the point of utilizing these 353 blight remediation tools to accomplish the elimination of blight and the project. So what is that in this case? What is our project? The 353 can actually do. It would be the construction of those road and utility infrastructures on the streets that are outlined. Again, you saw that on the map, slightly different from the CID map, but same area. And then the grading of the land, again, in that public improvement area. One thing I did want to mention that's a little bit different here from the CID is that we have gone ahead and negotiated through the redevelopment agreement, that's what we call it, that goes with this development plan. And that's because a CID, as I mentioned, separate political subdivision, it will have its own meetings to approve the agreement. So that's why it makes sense to kind of delay that one. The redevelopment plan in itself, once you approve it, it's kind of, that's the end of the action for this board. And so that's why we go ahead and do the agreement up front. One thing that I wanted to mention, it's pretty standard, but I do think it's worth noting that there is an event of default in here for the developer. And so what that provides for is that if the developer does not accomplish and complete the public improvements that are contemplated, it's an event of default under this agreement, which allows the city to come in and terminate the tax abatement that's provided. So that's kind of your clawback, if you will, or your remedy if the developer doesn't do what they say they're going to do with this incentive. And so I did want to highlight that as a remedy for the city if anything were to go awry. Again, that relates back all the way to the I guess it was the second bill you heard tonight, but the first of this project, where if those public improvements, we have certain security items that under the development agreement, but this is another remedy that you have to say, look, not only are we going to take the money you put under the letter of credit, finish public improvements, or make sure that those happen, we also are going to terminate your tax abatement. So I thought that was important for you all to know, but I'm happy to answer any other questions on the incentives specifically that maybe you haven't gotten answered yet before we turn it over to both the public, but also this is a taxing jurisdiction hearing under the statute. So that I did specific to taxing jurisdictions as well.
Anyone from the board? I'm not saying, okay. So at this time, then we will open it up to the public if you want to speak to this bill. Is anyone here who wishes to speak?
Good evening again. Kristen Hazeltine, Show Me Christian County Economic Development, 113 East Church Street. When I started with Show Me about 3 years ago, I was handed Ozark's incentive policy that and was told that we are ready for development. That all of the work had been done up front back in 2015 with all of the taxing districts so we could approach developers and communicate that we were ready. I took this information, I have communicated that with not only Mr. Tessing, but a lot of other developers. And we have, and we're ready for development that aligns with not just the policy, but the state laws, and if the project aligns with our comprehensive plan. That is what I've been communicating. Over the past couple of weeks, Mr. Rubal, Anna from our team, and I have reached out to the various taxing districts to have discussions about the proposed tax abatement. Although the policy is well established back in 2015, there have been many new people in leadership positions among the taxing entities since it was created. I believe the development team have done a good job at proactively reaching out to them and bringing them up to speed about this project and about the implications of the 353 on their taxing districts. A couple of highlights that I would like to point out is that Mr. Tessing's request does align with the approved incentive policy, and all of the taxing districts will receive more funds in year 6 than they would at least 25 plus years of it not being developed. There have been questions tonight about blight, and I would like to share that Show Me has been in various conversations on the definition of blight in regards to multiple properties throughout the county since there was a definition change. This definition of blight is defined for us per state statute and is not something that we have the ability to change. Based on various discussions with attorneys, state partners, Show Me's board is requesting that the Board of Aldermen approve a 353 tax abatement. The request aligns with the definition of blight by state statute and the city's policy in place since 2015. Tonight, representing Show Me Christian County are 51 different partners, including our board are representing our 51 investors and our partners. We do ask that the Board of Aldermen approve the 353 plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay.
I wanted to wait till we got to all 3 of those before we represented the chamber. First of all, how exciting is this? I mean, be honest with you. I mean, here's a piece of property that is better known to be a campaign sign location, right? I mean, that's kind of what its most popular use has been lately. The board of directors, we had our meeting last week and we had a small presentation for the mayor. We've also I've spoken to many of the entities that are involved with this, and overwhelmingly, obviously we're supportive of this. I mean, our own mission statement, strengthening Ozark through economic impact, community enrichment, and individual connection. I would say this one thing though, and I've been in this seat in another community, and I've been involved in economic development a long time, and I've sat in a lot of different meetings with just various capacities. And one thing that slows down economic development the most is us, as government. I mean, it just does. There's so many rules and regulations that are in place, right? And Eric, you know this, or City Minister Johnson, you know this, going through the years of your experience. This can slow things down. And I think that by us taking these steps and looking at what this can create, and knowing that this is a proven system that's already being done in Ozark, this program is already implemented in another part of town. It's implemented in other communities across the country. And this is what gets people excited about wanting to build in our community and bringing the things that Ozark Community Facebook Chit Chat says they want to see. I mean, they want to see in all these, and they want to see more development. And the other lots, if you look at those other lots, those are going to have the traffic counts. They're going to track these other businesses that people say that they would love to see in this community, which is going to improve the quality of life. So obviously, the Ozark Chamber of Commerce, on behalf of the board of directors, with an official vote the other day, we overwhelmingly support this project. Can't wait to do some ribbon cuttings, and hopefully we can get this underway. We also know that it can stress or put some stresses on our city services. I had the conversations the other day in our meetings. We heard from the fire chief, we heard from the police chief about the increased amount of calls, how that needs to be dealt with in the future. We're going to have to work with those entities as well in the future to try to make sure that we're offering the best public safety possible. The road structures are in place. They're making the improvements. This is an amazing and wonderful program and opportunity for Ozark, and it'll open up doors for other big things in our community. So thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'll try to remember where I live this time. William Vaughn, 2801 West River Bluff Drive. And Mr. Aiken, Alderman Aiken brought up a fantastic point, and that is I think there are several areas, if you look around, that by various definition could be considered blighted. So I think there is what's perceived and what is actual, I think is the question. So again, while I would like to put my full support behind this project to the Board of Aldermen, I would urge caution. The question I would pose is how much tax dollars has been spent repairing flooding on Rock Hill Road? How many insurance claims have been made due to flooding to homes on Rock Hill Road? Is the threat of flooding actual or is it perceived? I would say the same thing about the lack of shoulders on the road. Again, is that an actual or is that a perceived danger to the public. And lastly, I really just want to know if I quit mowing my yard, if you'll just come blight my property for me. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you again for the consideration.
Okay, anyone else from the public? Okay, I'm not seeing movement, so at this time, I'm going to close.
Mayor,
Yeah.
would you like to open it to
Yeah,
any taxing
Yes,
jurisdictions?
yes, I was going to do that. Are there any taxing jurisdictions that are here tonight that want to make a comment? Okay, I am not seeing, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do. The Board of Aldermen received a written comment from the Ozark Special Road District that has been sent to the Board of Aldermen, and you have received that.
Okay. Okay, at this time, then, I'm going to officially close to the public hearing, Bill number 3648. At this time, Bill number 3648 will be held over to a future meeting. Now we're going to draw attention. Let me ask a question. Are we all doing okay? Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, we're going to draw attention to Bill number 3649.
Your Honor, I'd like to place Bill number 3649 on its first reading by title and description only, please.
Is there a second? Okay. The motion is to replace Bill number 3649 as first reading by title only. That was made by Alderman Snyder. It was seconded by Alderman Campbell. All in favor of voting on the motion to discuss Bill 3649, do so by show of hands. And that does carry.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the city to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Missouri State Highway Patrol for participation in the United States Drug Enforcement Administration's High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Task Force.
Okay. I believe our Deputy Chief Derek Hill will be speaking to this.
Good evening. This ordinance allows us to receive back money from the HIDA subaward agreement, which basically allows us to fund our TFO position with the DEA up to $50,000. So that goes directly to the TFO's salary. We've been part of this task force since 2007, but we have not been in the HIDA subaward the entire time. 2021 was when we became part of that, and we've been in that every year since. So this will allow us to recoup money back toward that salary.
Okay. Any question for our Deputy Chief? Yes, Alderman Snyder.
Well, Captain Hill, HIDA is definitely another one of those valuable resources. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. This allows us to, like I said, it allows us to have a position on that task force, but it does give us the resources of the DEA and other federal agencies while investigating drug crimes and their nexus to this area. Surprisingly, based on where we're located, we do have quite the nexus to a lot of drug investigations, and based on US 65 and our distance from Springfield.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, sir. Okay. Okay. Since this is the first reading, I'm going to open up to the public. Anyone here who wishes to speak for Bill 3649? This is your time. Okay. Not seeing anyone here who speak against Bill 3649. Okay. I'm not seeing movement, so I'm going to now close this to public discussion this time. Any final response from the board? Okay. Bill number 3649 be held to a future meeting. We're now going to draw attention to Bill number 3650.
Your Honor, I move that we place Bill number 3650 on its first reading by title only.
Second by? Second. Okay. The motion is to replace Bill number 3650 on its first reading by title only. That motion was made by Alderman Metcalf, second by Alderman Aiken. All in favor of voting on the motion to discuss Bill 3650, do so by show of hands. And that does carry.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, vacating an unimproved right-of-way known as Estes Court, located generally south of East Bryant Street.
At this time, we'll recognize our Community Development Director, Randall Whitman.
Good evening again. This bill represents a request from the property owners of lots 11 through 17A of the Parkview Terrace subdivision to vacate approximately 400 feet of right-of-way platted as Estes Court. This subdivision and the proposed street vacation is located on the south side of the 7800 block of Bryant Street, just north of Gruball Park and the library. The Estes Court right-of-way accesses Bryant Street between two homes that also front on Bryant Street. All of the properties surrounding Estes Court are zoned R1C, single-family residential. Estes Court was platted as part of the Parkview Terrace subdivision and was replatted as the Parkview Terrace First Edition subdivision in 1996. None of the public improvements, including the street, of course, water, sewer, or stormwater are completed, so this is simply platted right away. With the plat being recorded nearly 30 years ago, it's difficult to explain why the city didn't require the street to be built prior to the plat being recorded. That's just a circumstance we're kind of dealing with. But the only utility we're really looking at that's impacted is a fiber optic or communication line through Brightspeed that's adjacent to Bryant Court that passes through the Estes Court right-of-way there, parallel to Bryant Street. The 7 lots adjacent to Estes Court, lots 11 through 17A, which are, it is difficult to get that to work. There it is. It's these lots all the way around to that one. Those lots are owned by the same property owner, the Bryant family. They have no homes constructed on them. They're unimproved. So the Planning and Zoning Commission's authority with respect to vacations is in alignment with other matters related to implementing the city's plan. This includes a review of other public improvements that impact the physical development of the city. That includes street dedications through preliminary plats, but that also includes street vacations. So as with other matters, the commission's recommendations are forwarded to the board for your final approval. The request was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their February 4th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and they did recommend approval based on 2 conditions outlined in the bill 3650. The first one, the applicant is to acquire and record an access and utility easements from each of the property owners on each Bryant Street. So that would be lots 10 and 19A. Those are the 2 for you all. That is this lot and that lot. The second condition is that the lots 11 through 17A be approved and combined through an administrative subdivision or replat. All the required postings and publication requirements required by state statute and city ordinance have been met. The city hasn't received any protests from the public or adjoining property owners. And as I said, city staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval. And I would be glad to answer any questions. I do know the applicant and possibly the representative here if there's something I can't answer.
Any questions for Director Randall? No, I'm not seeing any.
None. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, this is the first reading. I'm going to open up Bill 3649 to the public. Anyone here who will speak for Bill 3649? This is your time. No, okay. Okay, not seeing anyone here who will speak against Bill 3649. Okay, I am not seeing movement. I'm now close to the public. Final board comments, any? Not seeing any. Bill number 3649 will be held to a, excuse me, Bill number 3650 will be held to a future meeting. Now we're going to draw attention to the last bill, which is Bill number 3651.
Your Honor, I move that we place Bill number 3651 on its first reading by title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. The motion is we place Bill number 3651 on its first reading by title only. That motion was made by Alderman Galloway, second by Alderman Campbell. All in favor of voting on the motion to discuss Bill 3651, do so by show of hands, and that does carry.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, approving an addendum to the intergovernmental agreement between the city and Christian County regarding issuance of a final plat. I'll be introducing this bill, but I believe we have some representatives from the county here that might also be able to answer questions. The city and the county entered into an intergovernmental agreement on December 18th of 2024. The county has approached the city now and has requested that the Board of Aldermen approve a final plat and the direct staff to go ahead and issue building permits once they're applied of the construction costs, either on the schedule of values as estimated by the engineer or through the actual bid that's received. It would be the higher of the two of those. This does give the county 1 year to complete those public improvements, in which case then the city would come in and complete the improvements with the letter of credit. However, I don't believe either party is anticipating that occurring. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Good. I am not seeing any questions. Okay.
Just one final thought on this is that the city will have no obligation to issue any occupancy permits. So that is the last component. So if a building is completed and the public improvements are not finalized, the occupancy permits will be withheld until the public improvements are finalized. That's an important thing to mention. And I certainly think our community development director would want me to mention that. So.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. The applicant, in this case, the county, would request this to be expedited in case you weren't aware of that.
Okay, yes, had that note. At this time, if there's no more from the board, this is the first reading. So is anyone here who wishes to speak for bill number 3651? Okay, I am not seeing movement. Anyone here who wishes to speak against bill 3651? Okay, there's no movement, so I'm going to close it out to the public. And again, it was stated that the county wishes for this bill 3651 to be expedited tonight.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3651 on a second reading by title only.
Second.
Okay. The motion is that we place bill number 3651 on second reading by title only. That motion was made by Alderman Galloway, second by Alderman Snyder. All in favor of voting on this motion, discuss bill 3651, do so by show of hands, and that does carry.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, approving an addendum to the intergovernmental agreement between the city and Christian County regarding issuance of a final plat.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Yes, Metcalf has one.
Yeah, so the request to expedite, was that from the county or from the city?
The county has requested that that be expedited.
Okay, and then the follow-up question would be, so was there an issue that they couldn't get the first reading 2 weeks ago?
I would have to direct that to the county. I believe their planning director is in attendance.
Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to add to that. We were in the process of hammering out the details of the agreement, and they weren't ready 2 weeks ago.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so.
Your Honor, I move that we enact bill number 3651 as ordinance number 25-022.
Second.
Okay, the motion is that we enact bill number 3651 to become ordinance 25-022. That motion was made by Alderman Galloway. It was seconded by Alderman Snyder. Roll call, please.
Alderman Snyder?
Aye.
Alderman Campbell?
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson?
Aye.
Alderman Galloway?
Aye.
Alderman Aiken?
Aye.
Alderman Metcalf?
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Okay, there's no second reading tonight, resolutions. This time we'll go to our reports, beginning with the city administrator, Eric Johnson.
Yes, sir. You guys have about 30 more minutes. I've got a long report tonight. Just a reminder that we have a non-legislative work session this Thursday morning, starting at 9 o'clock. We'll go from 9 to 10:30. We could possibly have you out of there earlier than 10:30. But we have 2 items on the agenda, so we will see you Thursday morning. And that's all I have.
Next, we have our Community Development Director, Randall.
It's been a pretty quiet month. I think I reported that signs have been a constant issue. I meant to put a picture on there of the pile of signs that James has been collecting. It's about that tall, and it's, it's overflowing at the dumpster and things like that. That's one thing I wanted. Other than that, we haven't had a lot of activity. We spent a lot of time working on that Marabella subdivision, and a few other subdivisions that have been kind of dormant over the winter, if you will. So that's really all I have to report. It's slow starting, I guess you could say, through the first of the year.
Okay, I think
Answer any questions? Or
I think Alderman Campbell was first, and then
The first 2 items on the building permits, Cox Select, Ozark Rehab Hospital. What's going on there? Well, I see one of them is a remodel infill permit. Is this, could you tell us what's going on there?
honestly, I may have to defer that one to Cameron. Some of these occurred well before the time I started, so.
Okay.
I hate to put you on the spot.
On the second item, the rehab facility, that's the main facility they're working on out there. In addition, through the process of permitting this, we've broken up into several pieces. And so I think that's why you see a remodel infill permit, because we are permitting this in stages like a footing, foundation, under slab, kind of the structural part of the building, and then the infill. And I think that infill permit is just the infill of the main structure. Okay. So because of the process of them wanting to expediting the permitting process and breaking up in pieces, that's why you see 2 up there. And they will be on there for quite some time, as it's a big project.
And that's pretty common in order to keep projects moving forward, to do a foundation permit, and then whatever the next permit is, and then you start going vertical.
Yeah, especially on large facilities like this, that is common to be doing that.
okay, Alderman Snyder, is next, sir.
Yeah, what's the update on Burger King?
It's still being remodeled.
I know.
The last time I believe there was an issue with the footing, the way it was poured. What's going on?
Lots happened since then. I understand. It's no action.
I mean,
Same report.
no news from them at all?
I think I shared this last time. The building inspector, it took about 5 different phone calls and 5 different referrals to get somebody to answer a question. And he dug down deep enough that he finally got somebody to commit to what they were aiming for. I think was the middle of the summer or the end of the summer, early fall, to have something finished. But unlike you, I haven't seen any activity. So I'm most afraid to answer that again next month. So.
Oh, you're going to answer.
I'll find out something.
Yeah, well, I'm sure like we all getting hit with what's happening in Burger King. I mean, it's Alderman Galloway.
Yeah, I'm missing my Whopper meal. I like to get it about once a month. Alderman Campbell, I talked to an executive at Cox. I just happened to be the same function that he was, and he said that the whole hospital they were thinking would be done by November of this year, if you can believe that.
Can I respond to that?
Oh,
Sure.
yes.
I have a son and 2 grandsons working on that project, so I get an update quite often.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, no, it's moving along very well. Okay. Any other questions for Director Randall?
I will
Okay.
share one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Something that we've been kind of working on is how we interpret different elements of the zoning code and subdivision regulations, and we've found some things that may be challenging, maybe could be spelled out a little bit different. So we're going to be slowly working on some text amendments or amendments to the zoning code, just the language. So you might anticipate that coming forward in the next month or 2. I'm not sure how that works here, but we'll work through it, and it'll be exciting. I assure you of that. If there's anything that you've noticed that you question about the way something reads, feel free to pass it on to us, and we'll look at it at the same time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And then, so Director Hayden, are you going to answer questions?
He's on vacation. this week.
So are you answering his questions for him?
That would be Cameron.
I don't know if I can answer questions, but I would add that he had a fill-in, stand-in for tonight's meeting, and I think they ended up having a sick child, so they were not able to attend as well. COVID is what it is. So.
Oh, no. Okay. Was there any questions about the Parks Department, though? Okay, I'm not seeing any.
If there are any questions after this meeting, we're happy to respond and get those answered for you.
Okay, okay. Any final comments from our board tonight? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion to adjourn. That motion was made by Alderman Snyder, second by Alderman Metcalf. All in favor of voting on the motion to adjourn, just by show of hands. And okay, it's unanimous, it passes. Well,
City Administrator.